Welcome to IndieWood 2016, South Asia's biggest film carnival. Today's session is an interactive session with the leading cinematographers of India. For today's session, we have on the dais General Secretary Dharam Gulati from Western India Cinematographers Association. Please give them a huge round of applause. Mr. Vinod Pradhan, cinematographer for Rang De Basanti. And Mr. Anup Jotwani for Maya Mem Saab. Menu, camera, video and shoot. Oh yes, this is the new style. Each and everyone with a high-tech smartphone can become a cinematographer now. Even if one does not have a basic knowledge of filmmaking, they can still pursue their dreams of movie making nowadays. The world of cinematography has ran a long way from Kodak to GoPros. Nowadays, that tiny little camera in our smartphones is capable of capturing everything, which was once possible only through a cinematograph. But what do we call it? Do we call it a revolution of technology or the brilliance of simplicity? Let's find out what our panel members have to say on this.
I would like to ask you, how do you feel the evolving of digital from the celluloid? What are the kind of problems you faced, or like how you feel? And
yeah, for quite some time, digital was not up to the mark when we had films. So there was a lot of resistance purely because of the quality of digital output that was there. Probably about 4 years ago, 5 years ago, suddenly the quality of digital cameras improved a lot. So after that, I think everyone jumped into the caravan, and more than anything else, it's made probably life a little simpler, even though it may not have taken as much of a film quality in the initial stages, but now it's very close to it, and in many respects, it's even superseded film. I did my first digital film was called Mausam, in which I had partly shot in film, and I did some tests with the Alexa camera, and I liked it very much. So after that, I shifted it straight away to it, and I didn't look back after that. I've always been digital. Many purists will say, well, that's not the way to look at it, but I don't know, probably I'm not a purist, so I'm okay shooting digital. And I'm quite happy with what I'm getting. It makes me see things on the monitor, and I can judge things much more easier there than in film. And I can go a little more to the edge than film would have allowed me to.
do you think the film will ever come back? Because the people are talking in Hollywood, some of these companies are still giving some contract to Kodak and asking them to, just carry on with the making of the, production of the film.
I think even now there's some amount of film being made for specific clients, or probably, I don't know exactly how it works. But there are films which are shot in film because the DOP, the director, they wanted a specific film look to it, which probably means a little more noisy and a little grainy and a little different in terms of tones and all. Tones and the way the color is represented. But those, I think, are very subtle, and I find that for digital I have more good things to look at. It has made me and the world it has made the whole world make better visuals. Because to get such visuals initially was very, very difficult. Now it is, you can see it in the monitor, Corona, that sort of thing.
Because I just met these Kodak guys, and they are saying, yeah, they are trying their best to, now they've come out with some Super 8 camera. So, I don't know. Anup, can you show some?
Initially, digital did not take off because film, had a history. And people were so, the whole process of making a film was completely sorted. And people did not have faith in digital till the post-production side of it was got completely sorted. And now it's the other way around, that all the post-production facilities are available for digital, and there are no post-production facilities for film. The other day I was called to do a workshop at Whistling Woods with film, and there is no way we can get a print. We can do process the negative and to get a print to those standards, there aren't labs. So what do? It's just the confidence which people now have in digital is what people used to have in film at one point of time.
Vinod, can you tell us something about your Devdas? That huge set you had. How long it took to, to light up before the shoot started?
First of all, I'll have to tell you about I don't remember the size of the set, but it was the Film City Lake and all the hills surrounding it.
Huge,
everywhere.
right?
It was,
Indoor,
it was
outdoor
big.
together, there was.
Yeah. And it was quite a task. Actually, when I went to see the set, I was very blank because where do I start? So the first thing I told my assistant was, let's try one 100-watt bulb inside that window over there. So from that 100-watt bulb that I put in one window, it went to 40 generators. They said that I took all the generators from the film industry to light up that area because it was so big. And the first lighting we did, we finished it in 3 days. I don't know how we finished it so fast, but we finished it in 3 days. And we had to light it again and again. I mean, go back to some other set and then come back to that place and light it up again. And the worst part was it was all night. Yeah, so shooting in nights was something I'd become quite fair because I hadn't seen the sun for many, many months. We shot for, I think, some 200 odd nights that time. And, well, it was a fun experience, but...
Anup, do you have something to say about Maya Mem Saab?
Maya was years back, probably. Completely. I've been more with advertising and television commercials. Since
Okay, now
19
let's talk about some commercial. There's a commercial which you felt was like,
No, I'm just also, what I want to talk about, say this is that people have this conception about features and commercials, One has to understand commercials are commissioned films. When they are not films like somebody has very passionate about it and has a script and he does it. But commercials are commissioned films, Agency has commissioned it to a producer and they make it to a specification almost, So it's a very, very, even though the tools are the same, the storytelling, everything is the same, but they are very, very different.
Okay, let me introduce Naresh Sharma. He's just joined us a little late. He runs a film school also, and he's publishing a very interesting magazine called Art of Cinematography. Would you like to share something about yours?
Yeah, first of all, apologies because I was not aware that I was supposed to be here. And I was attending another session by the distributors, some big people like PVR, Kamal Gyanchandani and those kind of people. So that's my apology. So otherwise, I hate to be late. I think I would take the opportunity to ask something because nowadays I'm more into asking questions rather than to answering it. And I was trying to get hold of Anup Jotwani. Anup has one of the distinction, I would say it's a privilege to work with one of the master cinematographers of this country, Subroto Mitra, on New Delhi Times, I suppose. So I would like to take this opportunity to let him speak about his experience of working with a person like Subroto Babu. So that would be much more helpful for us as well as the audience.
I consider Subroto Da my guru. After passing out, while we were in the institute, he used to come there for workshops, and it so happened that between 1979 and 83 that I was there, he took about 2 long workshops. So that's how I attended both those workshops. So my association with him starts from there. And of course, everybody in FTI watching Satyajit Ray films, everybody had seen, all the Satyajit Ray films, and from Pather Panchali to Charulata, and all these were films which were considered benchmarks, and Charulata especially. So as far as all the cinematography students, they used to look up to Charulata. And whenever he came, it the whole place used to transform. Because at that time, in the department, there weren't so many teachers in that sense. So when he came, he put everything in perspective. He used to start from the beginning, and he would streamline the lab completely. He would make sure that the lights and the cameras and everything was completely, in order and working to specifications, and then he would start. And working with him and being him on the campus, him being on the campus was not just he wouldn't be there for a workshop. It was that whole campus used to transform. It's not just the batch he would come for, but everybody used to be there, and everybody was free to attend the workshops and sit through it. And I think he sorted the basics for us like nobody did, especially exposure and metering. Honestly, I didn't know much about metering till I was in first year when he came. And I didn't know much about metering till he explained the way, the whole concept of grayscales and how it would reproduce. It's actually his way of, the way his whole concept of grayscale, and is very much like Ansel Adams, except that Ansel Adams dealt with stills and he was dealing with motion picture. And there was not so much of processing control, which Ansel Adams' system had. Whereas his thing was that you keep the lab, you standardize the lab and ensure that it gives you a consistent result, and then you work towards it, So that understanding of film stocks, the lab, and metering and exposure, the basics of cinematography, he just sorted it out for us completely.
Let me add something. I remember he came for our workshop also, and this grayscale you talked about, I remember it was so easy for him to tell us, and still we haven't forgotten. He had divided into Saregama Padanisa, remember? So once it was like there in your head, so you knew exactly what is Sa and what is Pa and what is Da.
Also, if I'm not mistaken, you worked on New Delhi Times
Yes,
also. So could you just narrate some
Yeah,
episodes
so
from that
actually
film?
from there it led to the association with him was there, so I kept in touch with him. So when he was doing, in fact, Suku was doing, Sukumar Jatania was here, they were doing discovery of Nehru with Shyam Benegal. So at that time I used to go to Bombay Labs while they were doing, and that's where my whole concept about labs and working in labs got completely sorted there. And when he started on New Delhi Times, I was there. I was actually more, not really as an assistant, but I was more like I would say, as an intern, But being with Subratada, it wasn't just working with him on the film. It was, I was there with him all the time. And even though the film may have been shot for about 70, 50, 60, I think 40 days, 40 to 70 days, I don't remember it now. But spread over 40 shooting days. But that process lasted for about a year and a half. And that 1 year, right from the time it was being planned to the final prints came out, till the time I was there. So one didn't learn just about the film and cinematography. It was just his whole approach to life. That is what mattered. And cinematography wasn't, for him, it wasn't just making a film. It was a way of life for him.
Also, could you also talk about your association with Janu Barua? I think you shot one of the film with him. In fact, Binod also
Actually,
shot
he should. Binod sir has done, I think, more work for him than I am. I just shot, I think the first 2-3 films were shot by Binod sir, and I shot it, yeah. and I shot 2 or 3 after that. So it was good to get out of Bombay and get to Assam and lovely locations. And, his way of working is very leisurely and put the whole unit up in locations in Assam and do the film. Actually, that the story about it. Sukumar Jatania was supposed to do that film. And he, at the last minute, had some other commitment that came up, or the film got postponed. So I literally got pushed into it, And it was quite nice. That first film that I did with Janu, Haludia Sorai, that got him the best film award. For me, that was my first film, and quite an experience because I was there for about 2 months and we shot for about 1 month, and 1 month there was constantly rain. So we used to get up in the morning, get ready, and then wait for rain to stop. What was quite amazing about Janu is that he uses resources so well. And for the first time I was seeing something that in a place like Guwahati, to do the indoor thing completely indoors in a studio, I'm more used to shooting on locations. And I presumed that it would be shot. I had no time to do any pre-production or anything. I just landed there and we just shot the film. So I was under the impression that we would shoot the entire film on location. But we shot on location, or rather waited on location for rain to stop and shot. And then, to build a set in Guwahati and shot the interiors there. Well, as a first film, it was quite an experience for me. And in fact, I think that whole Janu and Vinod sir were more of a team at that time, and they had sorted this whole concept out, and how to build the set in the studio and things. So Janu naturally, I think, went from there and used to work like that. I think he still does that. He shoots a lot, the entire outdoor and all that. But the interiors, he still shoots in the studio.
Vinod, I would like to ask you, you've done so many films with Vinod Chopra. And in one of the films I was there doing the little second unit with you on that Kareeb. And I've seen your involvement in the whole film. So can you talk about how much the cameraman's contribution is, with the director, how much he contributes to make a film, better and better and better. And I've seen, I think he has given you title also as an associate director or something.
Because there are directors who are very heavy-handed and they only want to see it the way they want to see it. Whereas there are the others who lets you be free and lets you contribute to what they're doing. And I've been lucky to get a lot of those type of directors. In fact, I think almost all of them that I've got have always been banking a lot on my inputs and all. And so wherever you can tell a director, and if the director listens to you, there you can put a hell of a lot. And sometimes I get a little stressed out because I'm required to put in more than what I want to do it at that time. But finally, in the end, I'm happy that I could contribute that much to a given film, in terms of what the angles of the camera should be, or what movements should be, or how it should look, how the shots should be conceived, and also, which a lot of the directors I've seen in other people's sets where the directors almost like independently in the camera and arrange for the shots, which I don't think nowadays the directors will do that. But I'm talking of the directors of yesteryears. I've seen them exactly put the frame and say, I want it like this, and I would say, God, I want to work in a place like this. But I've been lucky in that way. So with Vinod also, it's been very nice. I mean, he was completely dependent on the visual quality on what I was doing. He used to back me up. And of course, we used to have a lot of discussions, a lot of sessions, probably for 3 month shoot would probably be discussing for about the previous 3 months would have been spent just discussing about the film and how we would go about it. So there's a lot of homework that was done. Even with Rakesh Mehra, in fact, there's a lot of homework to be done, and that's where the more you work on a project, I suppose, the better it becomes. So that's how it's done, I suppose.
I also experienced, some of these directors are very sticky types, And then I feel is like, it becomes, then you become just a mechanical person. Your involvement is not there. You're not working with your heart and soul in the film. And it shows on the result in the end.
Yeah, even sometimes, I get into this place where they tend to dictate, okay, let's do it like this, let's do it. And then I don't know, okay, I'll just say, okay, how do you want the shot? You want it like this? Okay, we'll do it like that. But then, instead of trying to argue, let's put it here, let's not put it there and all, why go through all that stress? So if it happens like that, I simply agree and say, okay, go ahead. And then when other corners where I can, I will give my inputs, I do that.
Yeah, the ideal relationship is a cinematographer as a collaborator, and as what I think he's saying, that he has been lucky that he is treated like a collaborator in the films.
Today, rather yesterday, there was a discussion on 8K and things like that. So when we are still not equipped for 4K projections, I mean, not more than 40% cinema halls are 4K upgraded. So how does this 8K shooting and projecting again into 2K and maximum up to 4K will survive? Do you see there is a little scope of cinema halls to upgrade to 4K and then later on to 6 and 8K?
I wouldn't know about cinema halls projecting in 8K or 6K, but 4K, yeah, it's just a matter of time, I suppose. 2K is already here when there was only HD sort of a projection. And when you shoot in 8K, the advantage is when you bring it down to 4K or 2K from 8K, the overall detailing and all will be much better. And also, if you want to recompose the shots, you want to zoom in a little bit and from an image size like this, suppose you want to go in a little tighter, maybe this much, I don't know. So it'll be a big advantage in that thing. And of course, as I said, when you bring it down to 4K from an 8K, it should be better than a 4K to 4K if everything else remains the same. So there is an advantage of shooting in 8K like that, but I would rather have the facility to shoot a larger sensor size. Right now it is a 35 millimeter. I'd love to shoot VistaVision, but I don't know whether kabhi aayega wo yahan.
Also there is now so much visual effects and so much of post-production. So it's always better to have more information available to you, which you can always downsample and arrive at something.
Also, because at the end of the day, it's a screen, whatever 4K, 2K we shoot. So what are the efforts which can be made to have some kind of standardization so that all these cinema halls screens could follow whatever is being captured by you people on your camera?
I think you're just coming from a seminar on that, so you should tell us more about that. No, see, I think that's a kind of question which everybody would like, a very standardized, high definition.
Seminar was about the money only, business and business, nothing to do with the art.
What the people should do is, I think they should spend a little more money in standardizing the projection system in all the theaters, and that would really solve a lot of the problems, because after you do a feature film, we shoot it, spend a lot of time in shooting it, spend a lot of time doing post-work and all, and then you go to one theater, it looks like one thing. If you go to another theater, it looks like something else. So it's very puzzling finally. And once what happened was, we'd gone to one particular theater, which was the main theater, and the result looked very bad. The print quality sort of looked very bad. So we said, this is not what we had done. So we went to the lab again, made a few minor changes, went back to that same theater with the original what we had shown before and this new changed one. The original one again looked very different. So the original one that we had seen over there, which looked very muddy, which didn't have a good quality, that looked okay on that particular screening. So within the theater, within the screen itself, there's so much of difference in projection. There's so many variables. I don't know where those variables go in terms of contrast, in terms of brightness, sharpness, and everything. So I think there's a little bit of money should be spent on that.
Yeah, that SMPT has been trying to put this whole thing, but I don't know. Every theater has a different projection. I mean,
Yeah,
every
nobody follows it.
parameters, the settings, what everybody does. I don't know, some kind of training is required for them, or only then
I
something.
think this is one area which hasn't changed. It's gone from single screens to multiplexes. The loos have improved. The food in the court has improved, but the quality of screening has not. From the time it used to be film to the time it has become digital, even the screen illumination is not standardized.
During the projection of those film, I mean, I remember there's when the Arc, they used to save money on those in small towns, but now there's no cost saving on that. But still, I don't know. There has to be some kind of standardization. I mean, I don't know who we can put blame to, or, make in charge of
No,
these
it
things.
is. It is quite. The way the what we produce is the way it's consumed. That has changed, because people now see it on cell phones, they see it on iPads, they see it on computer screens. So that is another area. What do you make? What the output should be for? You make it for big screen. It goes on somebody's computer. They see it some print which has been, they downloaded from a torrent, and then they see it. They see it on cell phones, all kinds of things. So there is absolutely no respect for standardization in any form. But at least the least that can be done is what Vinod sir is saying. At least, put some money and, those 2 weeks where most of the producers make the money for the film. At least, see the stuff in good resolution on a good quality screen.
Whenever a project comes and there's a budget, most of you people have all the budgets. So how do you go about choosing a particular camera? Both are 4K, both have equal kind of a things, 6-7 players are in the market. So how do you go about choosing a particular camera? Is it the brand and comfortable like Alexa, which you are happy with? Or if there is an option you would like to explore?
It's got nothing to do with the budget anymore. It's the camera which is the camera you're comfortable with, which is the camera you want to use. So it's all a personal choice. So no producer would come and say, yeah, we don't have a budget for this particular camera.
If the budget permits you that you can choose any camera, why you prefer to choose a particular camera for a particular project?
Because those are the available ones that we have here. And as I said, again, it doesn't depend on budget. It's on your preference, whether you want an Alexa or
what you are comfortable
Red
on, you can just.
or a Sony, whatever you want. So it's entirely the DOP's decision of comfort of which camera he wants to use.
See, the other thing is, it's a matter of the entire workflow. You have to look at it. You can't just say one camera. You look at the workflow. You look at the post-production house that you'd be dealing with. You look at the kind of visual effects that are involved. If there is a film, let's say, which has a lot of visual effects, then probably, you may, and what the post-production house suggests, you may take that into consideration. But most of the times, 80% of the time, it's the comfort level of the DOP, of the whole production setup that it works on that. But 80% of the time is the comfort level of the DOP now. Yeah. What is a lot of difference, Lenses do make a lot of difference, more than the camera in that sense.
Okay, in the audience, anybody wants to ask anything? Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but during your school days, you showed keen interest in photography.
For me?
Yes, sir, for you. Then what inspired you to choose cinematography as a profession? Because back in the days, choosing cinematography as a profession must have been an unusual choice for you. So what inspired you for that?
I studied from FTI, Film Institute then. And the reason why I went there was not to learn cinematography. I'd gone there because that was the only place I knew which taught me still photography. And I was really crazy on still photography at that time. And I knew that for the first year at least they'll teach still photography and not motion picture photography. But after learning still photography for the first year, then second year was movies, and I think that caught my fancy after that.
I am from Madhya Pradesh, tourism. My question is to you, sir, that I'm talking about locations. Though the cinematographers are the one who explore the locations, who show the beauty of it. Why cinematographers, why producers, why directors are going to abroad to shoot, rather because we have so many beautiful locations in our country. And other question, like for example, Bombay Railways has been shot in Sri Lanka. They made a set in Sri Lanka. And there's another movie you're talking about, it's shot in Georgia. They established Mumbai in Georgia. And why it is happening, if there are any suggestions from your side that we as government and as Indians, we can improve that?
I think some of the reasons are they give the countries over there, like Georgia and all, give a good subsidy to the producers, and they welcome them with not just open arms, but really open arms. You know, and here in India, there's so many problems, so many restrictions. You have to cross a lot of all those
Like the permission
bureaucratic
processes.
setups and all, and even then things are not clear.
So that's what I'm asking, sir. What are
And
the possible
sorry,
solutions?
besides that, the infrastructure here is not as good as it would be. Probably it'll be easier for the producer to go and shoot Bombay in Georgia than for the same producer to shoot in Bombay itself. And in terms of looks also, they'll have a little fresher look. I don't know whether it looked like Bombay or not, I have no idea, in Georgia. But even then, it's much more comfortable and easier to shoot in places like this than to shoot in most of the parts in India. Like we were searching for a location, and Sikkim was considered as one of the locations to see. But to go to that place in Sikkim where the location is good, it would take us about 2 days to just reach that place by car, bad roads and all, and then to cart all your equipment and all. How do you do that? You don't. You just go fly to Georgia or Spain or wherever and shoot there very comfortably. So that is a big reason why.
So actually, my question is how to improve that system. Like as Madhya Pradesh government, what we are doing in film tourism section, that we are providing you the connectivity and the unexplored locations, not only scenic but also from the rural and urban infrastructure. And we are providing the locations database and everything to the cinematographers and what do we want to shoot in there.
See, I wouldn't be able to tell you about the requirements of rural. I'm sure they'll not be going to those foreign countries for rural areas. They will be going more for the natural beauty and for the cityscapes that are available there. So, and they are very pretty looking places there, which you can't find too much in India. And even if you find it in India, like I've shot in Hyderabad. And to shoot cities in Hyderabad was so problematic that we went to Malaysia to shoot the cities. I mean, shoot the street areas and all. Now, what do you say about that?
And that's a pity.
And in any small towns or any other city except Bombay or major cities where the filmmaking is happening, the crowd which collects there, it becomes a big problem to shoot. I was shooting a film in Allahabad and I know how I went through it. See, you call the police doesn't help. I mean, they can't control it. They're just there. They also start watching the shooting. They don't do their jobs. So these are so many things. Then like you were saying Bombay.
Yeah.
Now shooting in Bombay, outdoors, anywhere, is so expensive.
Yeah, that's
and
true.
plus there's so many permissions.
Yeah, that's
BMC, this, that, then the guys will come from somewhere, you bribe them.
Yeah,
So when you go abroad, you don't have to go through all this. People don't know these stars, so you are comfortable. There's nobody hassling you. You do your work peacefully and come back. So these are certain things which somebody can, work it out, and maybe, I'm sure.
Yes,
India has a lot of locations.
potential.
A lot of locations. I know. Earlier it used to happen.
Yes, sir.
But now it's like few years back, this whole trend has started, going abroad. And
Thank you so much.
yeah, thank you.
And my name is Rabi, and I am from Punjab. I'm a student filmmaker. And sir, my question is to Anup and Manoj sir. I need to know a few tips about the screen grammar. Like I know basics when to use a close-up shot and when to use a wide shot and when to use a medium shot. Like when you want to show emotions, you use a close-up, and when you want to establish a location, you use a wide shot. So I need to know some more tips and when to use a medium close-up, when not to use a medium close-up, and when to use a medium shot. So my question is to Anup sir and Vinod sir.
Which school you're studying in?
Sir,
Anup, you handle this.
I'm studying in Center of Advanced Media Center, sir, in Patiala, Punjab University.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
See, I think this is this is a question which is more academic in nature and should be dealt with in a film school, Yeah. But this is, there is no hard, fast rule that that this is the thing. It all comes from the requirement of the script. So if you have if you have understood the script and you are following what the director wants to convey, then that is one of the primary considerations for it. And as far as how to use, when to use, I don't think there are any set rules for that.
They're all personal choices of a director, and plus the scene requires.
It is the
actually. It is
effectiveness.
demand of the scene.
How do you tell a story? You know, it's just that it's a grammar. You know, it's just that today you say that how do you use? You are taught a language, let's say Hindi, English, whatever. But when you write a book, you know, there is no guideline saying that this is how you should write a book. When it just flows with the whole thing. So that's how it goes in filmmaking also.
My question is, with YouTube and all these tutorials coming online today, how important is a film school today as such, and a diploma or anything today in the industry as such?
I think if you want to make a film, no matter how small it is, it requires a certain sort of grammar to it. Either you speak a good grammar or you don't speak a good grammar. That will largely depend on how you studied the medium, I suppose. So how well you do it, how well you don't do it, may not depend on whether you've gone to a school or not, but it always helps to better what you've done, what you're doing.
The education gives you a good foundation. But otherwise, people are doing it on their own also.
So my question is to Vinod sir. So as you said that shooting digitally is more easy and comfortable. So sir, Christopher Nolan said that if we will not appreciate the quality of experience of the audience coming to cinema and keep on shooting it digitally, then the people coming to cinema will gradually decrease. And Christopher Nolan like to shoot each entire movie in film, even if it's a Skype chat and all. So do you agree with it?
I would not agree with him because I shoot digital myself. So I have to, I'm not saying he's wrong, probably he's right in his own way, but the rest of the world is also right in their own way when they're shooting digital. See, digital has made the medium of image acquisition very easy, like you're shooting with the iPhone and all. And pehle kahan tha hi nahi ye sab. You used to have those 8mm cameras, and most of the time the exposures would be wrong and it will be very difficult to get a good quality result. Now the base result you get is good. But to go beyond it, you'll need your talent to do it. And Christopher Nolan, I don't know, there are a few directors who insist on working on film. But the rest of the world has changed over to digital. The best of DOPs have changed over to digital, except barring a few maybe. No, it will not decrease because it's not that the image quality has decreased. If the public doesn't go to a theater because the image quality is bad, then most probably the first thing, then it will be a serious thing which the theater owners will have to look at and improve their projection, because that is the main thing that makes a visual look good or bad. Besides that, the aesthetic nature of how it's done, that's a different matter. So as long as, when there was, I remember once people were hardly going to see films. And I used to see, of course, what the films I made, I used to see it only in my main lab, and I would never go out and see it in other places because I would never like the quality of how it was looking finally. So to have a good memory visual memory of what I've done, I'd rather see it in the lab only, and then I tell the lab, you take over because there's nothing else I can do, it's not in my hand. Then one day I went to see a film in some remote theater. The quality was so bad, the television was looking much more better than what this theater image was looking. So no wonder at that moment people started going for television stuff more than film, because film was horrible, the sound was horrible, the visuals were all fuzzy, very not good in quality at all. So if that happens again, probably people will go more for the TV. Even now, TV has got a lot of exposure with Netflix and all those sort of popcorn or whatever you want. I don't think they're going to go away because the medium is digital. Because nowadays, they're all watching it on a digital medium. Whether it's TV or whether it's in the theater also, the projection is digital. So I don't see why they will say, no, it has been shot in digital, so it will not go, so I will not go and see the film. I don't think even DOPs think like that. Though DOPs are the most, they look at image quality most critically, right? But I don't think Anup will go and say, "Arey, wo film mein shoot nahi kiya, I'm not going to see that." I don't think that will ever happen now.
I'd like to thank the session members for providing us with such valuable knowledge on cinematography. I'm sure each of us learned a lot from this session, sir. Now, I'd request Mr. Naresh Sharma to kindly felicitate our session speakers with the mementos and participation certificates. So, first speaker being felicitated for today, Mr. Vinod Pradhan. Can we please have a huge round of applause for him? Second member, Mr. Anup Jotwani. Third and final member, Mr. Dharam Gulati. Can I request you, Vinod sir, to kindly hand over the memento to Mr. Naresh Sharma?